Wildlife photography is not just about being in the right place at the right time. It's also about understanding your subject, the location, why you're there in the first place, and then pressing the shutter.
I'm Danelle Boyd.
I'm Jenny Lisacek.
And I'm Chase Taryn.
And we are wildlife photographers. We spend countless hours out in nature studying wildlife and developing our own distinct styles of wildlife photography to communicate our mission to protect nature. In this course, filmed on location in Namibia at Irindi Private Game Reserve, we combine our collective professional knowledge to teach you our entire methodology to wildlife photography that you can apply to any subject and to any location, whether that's your house cat or a lion out on the savannah. To us, photography is not only an art and a science, but also a deeply personal experience. How do you convey this experience through art by getting to know the animals, the science of the gear, and the editing tools? Traveling to any location to photograph wildlife can seem intimidating, but we'll break down the process that took us collectively more than 15 years to develop from trial and error. You won't make the same mistakes that we did. From concept to planning to capture to editing. Created for anyone with an interest in wildlife photography, from beginner to expert. In this course, we'll share our individual philosophies and techniques that will help you to define your photography and your mission.
So in this lesson, I'm going to introduce you to my approach to safely photographing wildlife from ground level, in order to capture uncommon perspectives. This technique is especially powerful because in many cases it's not safe to get out on the ground with much of the wildlife like here in Namibia, and also because many of the desired angles that you may want to capture might not be possible because of, well, I mean... So, in order to capture photographs like this, we must adopt methodologies that are especially considerate and respectful to the nature, keeping in mind the safety of the animals first and foremost. As such, over the years, I've frequently utilized two primary techniques. The first I like to call the upside-down tripod method, and the second, something more commonly known as the camera trap. And I'll go over the gear involved for each technique, their respective challenges, and the critical steps that you must follow when attempting these methodologies, for the well-being of the wildlife and for yourself. Now, although these examples are all from Namibia, you'll also recognize in this video how to adapt the approach to any wildlife and for any location. And before I begin, I do in fact have a bit of a disclaimer. This video showcases photography of, in some cases, dangerous wildlife. Keep in mind that these methods are not to be implemented without the proper knowledge of animal behavior for the wildlife that you aim to photograph. Attempting these methods should not be done without this knowledge or without the expert guidance of a professional that accompanies you out in the field. Likewise, many wildlife reserves and parks might require special permits for these methods, so be sure to ask before you put yourself in danger of injury or jail. Here at Irindi, I have special permission. I work with a professional team of guides and ecologists that advises and basically watches my back when I work with dangerous animals. And with all animals for that matter, I'm never alone, and I never attempt anything without consulting my team. We always take the welfare of the wildlife into consideration first, and so should you. Thus, it is your own responsibility if you choose to implement these techniques, and I can only warn you of the inherent dangers. So please be cautious, conscious, and aware of how you interact with wildlife on their own terms. We are only visitors in their world after all. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, let's discuss the intention. So photographically, what is the advantage and purpose of these methods? Why go through all the trouble? Well, I think most of us have seen photographs of wildlife like this, and thought, well, this is amazing, but subconsciously there's something going on that you might not be aware of. Now compare to this image of the same subject. Which one of the two feels more intimate and mutual? And what's the major difference? If you guessed the angle, then you are correct. Photography of wildlife from an above angle inherently predisposes your eventual viewer to subconsciously interpret themselves as being dominant to the subject, because you as the photographer were looking down onto the animal when you took the photograph. Now consider what this means for the viewer in relation to the subject in the photograph. It can compound their subconscious belief that they are more important. Even though they might like the lion, they'll just be less receptive to any message you might want to convey with the image, even if it wasn't your intention for that to be the case. Now, of course, every image that is not taken at exactly the eye level does not mean that it won't be an effective image for conveying emotion with the subject. It just means that it could have been potentially improved if the angle was more mutual. And that's kind of the point that I want to get across with this explanation right now. If you get down to their level of any subject, something significant will occur. If you improve the angle, you improve the chance to create a connection between the subject and the viewer. Now, again, photography of wildlife from a low angle, either at or below the eye level of your subject, can be accomplished with local wildlife as well. Whether that is birds, deer, rabbits, or any species, you can practice this technique from the ground. Either set up a tripod in your backyard, near a bird feeder for example, or take a walk through a nearby forest or park. And of course, as always, you should approach any wildlife with caution and respect. So if you're not ready to create your own camera trap, or hang a tripod out of a vehicle on safari, then you can still capture images like this at home. Just maybe find a friend with a cat. Anyways, that's it for the intro to the concept of uncommon angles in wildlife photography. You'll find all the details about the camera trap and the tripod technique in their own individual videos, so check those out whenever you're ready.